I am Revanny ZALYTHA SARI with NPM 244-12020, Class Act 24A. In accounting, intangible assets are recognized based on the acquisition cost incurred by the company to acquire the asset. The acquisition cost includes all expenditures necessary to make the asset ready for use, such as the purchase price, legal fees, taxes, and other direct costs. For example, when a company purchases a software license from a third party for 100 million rupiah, that amount will be recorded as an intangible asset in the company's financial statements. This recognition is important because it represents the company's investment in an intangible resource that has long-term, separately acquired intangible assets. These assets are purchased outright, and their value can usually be measured at their acquisition cost. Examples include the purchase of a license or patent from a third party. Internally generated intangible assets. These assets are created internally by the company, such as software developed in-house. Recognition for this type is more complex as it requires separating research costs, which are not recognized as assets, from development costs, which can be recognized as assets if certain conditions are met. Furthermore, one of the most complex forms of intangible assets is goodwill, which is the difference between a company's purchase price and the fair value of the acquired net assets. Goodwill can only be recognized in the financial statements if it arises from an acquisition and cannot be generated internally. In the financial statements, intangible assets are typically presented under the long-term assets section. Recognition also involves amortization, which is the allocation of the cost of the intangible asset over its useful life, similar to depreciation for fixed assets. However, not all intangible assets are amortized, such as goodwill, which is not amortized but is instead periodically tested for impairment. Managing and reporting intangible assets is crucial, especially for companies operating in the technology, pharmaceutical, or media sectors, where a significant portion of a company's value derives from intellectual property or customer relationships, rather than physical assets. With the increasing role of innovation and technology in modern business, intangible assets are increasingly recognized as a key determinant in assessing a company's competitive strength and sustainability. In practice, intangible assets have characteristics that clearly distinguish them from tangible assets such as machinery or buildings. Although both are categorized as assets, physical existence is the key difference between the two. Tangible assets can be seen and touched, while intangible assets are abstract and can only be measured based on their economic value. Furthermore, the management and reporting of intangible assets are generally more complex because they involve subjective judgments, such as estimating useful lives and future fair values. Consequently, companies must be careful in measuring and reporting the value of intangible assets to ensure the financial information presented remains reliable and relevant. In today's digital era and knowledge-based economy, intangible assets increasingly play a central role in shaping company value. Many modern companies, particularly those in the technology, media, and pharmaceutical sectors, have a much larger proportion of intangible assets than their physical assets. Software, copyrights, patents, customer relationships, and strong brands are intangible sources of competitive advantage that are crucial to business sustainability. Therefore, a company's ability to manage, protect, thank you,